All right, let's kick off the live stream real quick and go live. Is it working? I think so. Okay, guys, so here's what's up. Today, we are doing live every single day. We're going to be doing my life on stream. And so this is going to be just fun, interesting, whatever, you think about it, great. But as you can see over here, in my schedule, I'm now live streaming every day, pretty much everything about my life. So one thing I'm finding is that I'm a performer. I love to be on stage, but I'm also an introvert. And so this is like the ideal way to do this, is I want to constantly be talking to people and teaching and learning and interacting, but I really am not like I hate talking on the phone one-on-one. I hate stuff like that. And so I thought I'd just live stream my whole life for you guys. And what I think is really going to be special about this is that I've been putting in really hard work on myself for about 4 years now. So for the past 4 years, I've just been insanely hard working on my mentality, my mindset, becoming a better person. And all of this momentum is built up. But if you know anything about life, and you may not know this yet, it's that momentum has to build up and then you explode, right? Life is about exponential growth, not linear growth. And so I can see myself, in the next few years, really starting to take that exponential leap with my body. I've been working out, and now I'm starting to get a little bit more, muscle. Like, obviously, I'm not some, super ripped, crazy person, but I'm getting in better shape. And so I'm going to be live streaming my workouts every day at 10 a.m., and you're going to watch me go from this guy who did all the groundwork, right? I've got good nutrition now. I've been working out for about 3 or 4 weeks now, regularly. I'd spent 4 years not working out regularly, with no regular workout schedule. And for the first time in 4 years, I now have a regular workout schedule. So you're going to watch my body transform. Right now, I'm just getting started and I'm already seeing amazing results. Then you're going to watch my mind transform as I continue to use the techniques from my own Mental Health 101 class on this side. As I continue to use my own Mental Health 101 techniques on myself, you're going to see me continue to grow, continue to get stronger mentally. And so I'm already very strong mentally, but you're about to watch me go from stronger than almost everybody and really happiest person on earth, to just crazy, insane mental toughness, unstoppable, incredibly kind, beacon of love, just transcendent. And so we're going to live stream that transformation for you as well. And then I'm going to live stream the podcast just because why not? I need to get the podcast over in my bookmark, Liberated Millionaire Podcast. And I'm also even going to live stream myself playing video games. One thing is, for a long time, I've battled addictions to video games. And specifically what I've battled is the fact that I just go into this shrunken down place where I don't want to talk to anyone, don't want to interact, just want to play video games because it stimulates my mind. And in some ways, it's like a physical drug, right? But in other ways, it is like a productive thinking thing. So it's very tricky, right? And my new attempt to solve that, right? And my new attempt to change that is I'm just going to only play video games from 4 to 6 every day because that's the best time for my daily schedule. Preetha's still working, but I've generally finished most of my daily tasks. And so I'm going to stream video games from 4 to 6 on twitch.tv/WoodyReaney. So if you're into video games, you can watch me play my favorite card games online, which will be really fun. And then we can all hang out and interact and talk. And so it'll be this beautiful social time, even while we're playing video games. So I think that'll be really fun. And then everything I do on a daily basis is going to go live across Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, podcast platforms, whatever, at 8 p.m. every day. So every day at 8 p.m., all the things I've recorded during the day will go out, okay? So if you missed any of these live things that you wanted to catch, and these are the only things I want to really focus on right now, but I may include meals, I may include just a lot of other stuff. Anything related to personal growth, which as you can see is pretty much my entire life, is going to be live streamed, right? I'm so excited for it. And so here's the schedule. We're going to start off every day. I know I'm running just a smidge late today, but I really want to try and stick to it. We start off with just a little 5-minute teaching parable every day. And every day, what I'm going to do is expand your mind by giving you some kind of parable or metaphor that teaches you something. And so if you look at all these teachers of the past, right? Jesus or Buddha or Gandhi or all these people, good leaders don't teach by lessons, right? Education is so overrated. This is one of my personal notes. And again, I don't claim authority over you, so you can believe whatever you want. This is just my personal note for myself, is that education is vastly overrated because education is not learning. Learning comes from learning to apply different things to really change yourself, right? Not just to have some information. And so all the good teachers of the past, like Jesus or Buddha or whatever, taught through parables, taught through example, taught through social movements, right? Taught through their own actions, taught through just all kinds of things that were not lessons. And so I'm not trying to affect you mentally here. I'm trying to open your eyes and open your heart with these parables so that you're actually willing to go do the research and get educated yourself. So that if you need education, if you need to read more books, if you need more materials, I hope to inspire you to go do that yourself. So today's parable is one that I'm thinking about because it's going to lead directly into my own self-therapy, which if you want to watch somebody who's really intense mentally do therapy, hang on to your seatbelts for a second here because we're going to start doing this every day. One thing that I am thinking about all the time now is you cannot play defense against life, okay? This is something that I've learned, through this book, which if you know me, you know this is my favorite book on earth. If I had a Bible, it would be this. I read this book daily. I'm constantly obsessed with this, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And I have a huge book list. So, if you want the link to that, just message me and I'll send you the link to like a list of 30 books so you can go get educated. But Michael Singer is constantly saying, you can't play defense, right? You cannot play defense against life. You have to accept what happens in the physical world, and you have to know that mentally and emotionally, no one can affect you. Only you can control that. And so here's how I visualize that, okay? The way I visualize this, here's your parable for today, is imagine you are in a basketball competition, okay? But it's not any basketball competition. It's you versus the Mon-stars from Space Jam. You know Space Jam? Have you seen it? Back, Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny go up against all these monsters, and they're these huge, scary monsters, right, that are essentially unstoppable. And they steal the abilities from guys like Charles Barkley and other basketball players. They steal their basketball abilities. So they're these big, evil monsters that are fighting people. And so what I want you to understand is that the way you're probably living everyday life, the way I generally have been living everyday life until I've gone through these adjustments, is it's like life is like playing defense against the Mon-stars, okay? Imagine, right? It's just you. You're the only person out here. And you're up against a giant orange thing and a purple thing, and I've seen the movie like twice, but you're up against all these Mon-stars. Imagine you're playing defense against them, okay? And you're in a basketball game, and whoever has more points wins, all right? These Mon-stars are playing, and you might give all your effort, right? And you might try to guard one of these things, right? You might be waving your hands trying to play defense against this monster, but it passes the ball to another monster, and then that monster just dunks all over you and crushes you. 2-0 monsters. But you're like, ugh, I hate that monster scored against me. I've got to get stronger. And so you're trying harder and harder. And the next time you guard the monster, right? And then it tries to pass, but you block it, right? But then the monster gets the ball back and it passes to another monster. And then that monster dunks on you. Boom, 4-0. And then you're like, oh, well, that was better. That was better. It took him longer to score on me. That was better, right? And you're measuring yourself by how long you can stop them. And then the ball comes back in, right? And since you're on defense, the monsters just keep going and going. 6-0, 8-0, and they just keep dunking on you. And this is how life tends to feel. It tends to feel like you're just getting dunked on by these monsters. That's why you're so stressed. It's because you feel like you're constantly behind and constantly losing, okay? And so imagine that. Imagine that feeling of stress. Imagine that feeling of constantly feeling like you're losing for a second, right? It's not a good feeling, is it? And so that's one thing that I want you to understand. Hold on, let me check one thing on my stream real quick. No, it looks great. Okay. And so you're living life, and here's the truth. Every day you wake up and you do a workout, and you're like, I'm going to be better today at defending against the monsters. And then you go up against them, and you give your heart and soul, and you're doing everything. And then all you're thinking during the day is, this hurts so much, I'm doing my best. Will somebody just give me some praise? Please give me some praise. I'm working so hard. I just want to be loved and understood for how hard I'm fighting these monsters. And then at the end of the day, you go home and the score is monsters, 56, you 0. Why is the score 56-0? Because you are playing defense. And so every day you wake up and you think, well, if they just score a few less today, if they just do a few less today, if I'm just a little bit better on defense today, they won't score as much. And imagine, that you play a day and you play almost perfect defense, but they score just a couple times because you're like this waving massive machine defending against everything, right? Then they only score 4 points. But guess what, right? That's still 4-0. You're still losing. And cumulatively, this stacks up. So cumulatively, you're fatigued, and after a month of playing against the monsters, you might be down 1,000-0, right? And so what's my point here? My point is that if you're playing defense against life, defense is always a losing game, right? In defense, you're always just trying to stop the other team from scoring points. But no team could ever win at sports if they didn't play offense. And so here's the cool thing, right? Here's the thing I want to open your mind about, is that these Mon-stars are like life. It's chaotic, it's not personal, and it just does its own thing. Life is not meant to get you. These Mon-stars are not out to get you specifically. They're just there, and they're going to toss the ball around and dunk or whatever. And so what I've been doing is experimenting with this other way of living life. So consider this. What if you had been defending against these monsters, and you're like, oh, I'm down like 1,000-0, right? And first of all, you got to look at the hard truth and realize you're never going to win going up against the monsters when you're down 1,000-0 if you just keep playing defense. So you're like, I got to play offense. But then you get scared because you're like, well, to play offense, I have to stop playing defense. And unlike regular basketball, because life is not personal, life is not against you, life is just some generic chaos, but you can go do your own thing without worrying about life. So you decide to walk to the other end of the court. And you leave these Mon-stars behind you. And they just kind of toss the ball around, they have fun, and then every now and then they dunk it because they think they're cool. That's like life, right? Chaotic, just doing its thing, right? Goes at its own pace, kind of crazy. But you decide, what if I sat here, right? And I trained like Stephen Curry, and I was just going to shoot 3-pointers over and over again and score as fast as I could. All right? Like, what if you just had a rack of basketballs, just like in a shooting contest, and you got a rack of 20 basketballs, and you build up a team so that this team can go rebound for you, and they put the balls back on the rack. And every day you just stood there right behind the 3-point line, and then you just shot 3-pointers over and over again, just boom, right? Just boom, over and over again. Just shot 3-pointers on your own. What if you could score faster than the Mon-stars and end up winning because you keep getting better while the Mon-stars stay the same? Right? That's the fundamental concept I want to inspire you to today. Is what if instead of playing defense against life, you sat there perfectly still at the 3-point line. You let them score. Let's say they score 2 points a minute, right? Let's say the Mon-stars are life. Life's chaotic. It's not against you. So they're not really trying to beat you, right? Life isn't trying to beat you. So they're just tossing balls around, like doing their thing. And then every minute they dunk the ball once. And that's all they're ever going to do for the rest of time, just like life, right? Like not even linear growth, just solid, right? Like non-growth, just staying the same. And what if you just shot a 3-pointer and just kept practicing your 3-pointers? Now, here's the problem, okay? Here's the problem. You might not be sure of your ability to make a 3-pointer. If you've never played basketball before, you're not going to make a 3-pointer, okay? You're going to keep missing and missing and missing. You may need to go train your arm to be able to shoot farther. You may need to go find people to coach you on how to shoot a 3-pointer. And so in the beginning, on the first day of doing this new way of living, you may not make a single 3-pointer. In fact, you won't, because you've never played basketball before. You've only played defense. You don't know how to shoot. And so guess what? Those Mon-stars over there, you're going to imagine that they're taunting you. And every time they score, what are you going to be thinking when you practice your 3-pointers and keep missing? You're going to be thinking, I'm a failure. You're going to be thinking, I should be over there playing defense. And then guess what? There's going to be a gallery in the crowd. There's other people in the peanut gallery. These are the audience of the basketball game, okay? All of us have an audience for our game. We all have people who want to control us, who want to influence us. And these audience are going to be judging you, and they're going to say, wow, we used to praise you when you played really hard defense against the Mon-stars. Because even though you lost, you were playing the game, and you were trying, and you were working hard, and you were getting better. But now you're just over there shooting 3-pointers? What the hell is that? Like, you're not even scoring. You're not even doing anything, right? What is this about, Woody? Like, you've scored nothing. They're beating you worse. And so you're not going to be sure of your own abilities. You're going to be uncertain in yourself. You're going to be hurting physically from trying new motions. You're not going to have the support structures you need yet, right? You're going to have all the wrong muscles. Plus, there's going to be an angry crowd watching your basketball game, screaming, why aren't you trying harder? Why aren't you playing more defense? Right? You're letting them score. Plus, the Mon-stars are going to be over there, like, picking their nose and taunting you and telling you, like, screw you, right? Like, look at us dunk on you. Like, you suck. And all those things are going to happen. Do you see why most people never take the time to practice the 3-pointers? It's because even considering it makes them think of all those negative consequences. But here's the thing, right? Here's your only defense against all that, right? Here's your only understanding so that you can go on offense is what I really should say, not a defense. Here's the one defense, right? The one understanding, the one thing that will help you go on offense is mentally, you can't ever be sure that you're going to win. You can't ever be sure that you'll make a 3-pointer. You could potentially practice three-pointers for years and never make one and just lose worse and worse. But here's the thing. If you only play defense against the Mon-stars, you are always losing by an infinite margin. I want you to understand that. The only certainty in this scenario, the only true certainty, is that if you never play offense, if you only play defense against these Mon-stars, no matter how good you get, you will never score a point, and they will continue to score at sporadic intervals. And even if you become the perfect defender who only lets them score once a day, every day they will become infinitely and infinitely more scoring on you. And so if you live life on defense, you are guaranteed to lose by an infinite margin. I just want you to understand that no matter how good you are at defense, you will lose by an infinite margin. And so here's the thing. What if, instead, you just went and you decided to practice your three-pointers? What if you every day were getting better and better? And then suddenly there will be this magical point, right? This magical point where if the Mon-stars score 2 times, let's say the Mon-stars score, we'll make the math simpler. Let's say the Mon-stars score 3 times a minute. They score 6 points a minute. There's going to come this magical point where you start to make 2 3-pointers a minute and you make 6 points. And suddenly you're looking around like, wait, hold on. I'm even against these things and I can keep getting better while they never will. This is the thing, is life is not growing. Life is just chaos happening. But you can grow and get better at a faster rate than life scores. And so what if suddenly you can make 3 3-pointers an hour? Or a minute, or whatever the heck my example was, and suddenly you're scoring more than them. Now suddenly you know that you may be behind right now. You may have sacrificed 10,000 points to learn how to shoot three-pointers. Instead of being down 4,000 to 0 right now, you may be down 14,000 to 0 because you stopped playing defense. But now, if you just keep going, you're outscoring them every day. And it's never going to get worse, it's only going to get faster and faster as you get better at scoring three-pointers. And so guys, that's the secret, that's the sauce, that's everything. Is that once you reach that point, you have won. And you can't be certain you'll reach that point. You can't be certain you're good enough. You can't be certain that it's going to work out. You can't be certain that everyone won't leave you and hate you because you're doing your own thing instead of defending against the world, right? You can't be certain of any of that. But you don't have to be. All you have to do is be certain that if you keep playing defense, you are guaranteed to lose by an infinite margin and be miserable and live a life full of regrets, where on your deathbed, you're sitting there and you're like, I can't believe I never went for the shot, right? Whereas if you go for it, no matter what happens, you know you're doing the right thing. Not because you're certain it will all work out, but because you're certain this is your only chance. Guys, as hard as that sounds, that's a predicament you're in life. So think about life as that game against the Mon-stars. And what you're going to see me do on this live stream, why this was my introductory metaphor, is because this live stream, my coaching method, everything I'm doing is me practicing the three-pointer. Every day I'm going to be doing parables to make myself stronger. I'm going to be doing therapy on myself, which is the equivalent of training my muscles to shoot a three-pointer better. Every day I'm going to be working out my physical body so that I can shoot a three-pointer better, right? Every day I'm going to be recording podcasts to grow my audience so that I can start scoring more three-pointers by getting people into my coaching programs, right? And of course, mixed into my day, I am also working on our art business and my coaching business and my Mental Health 101 program, which will be done off stream probably, that will, again, that's me actually starting to shoot the three-pointers. But at the beginning of life, right, think about what I've given up to get there. I've given up a corporate job that paid $80,000 a year plus a bonus, right? So plus benefits. So between my insane benefits at this amazing company with amazing perks and everything, I'm giving up $100,000 a year. But the problem was, even when I was making that, I was still on defense against the world. It was just every day, what were the obstacles? What could I stop? How could I keep things from going bad? Now I'm on offense. And I may not be making $100,000 a year in 2020. I probably won't, in all certainty. Our business could explode. Our business does really well. We had a $5,000 sale earlier this year. But chances are I won't make $100,000 this year. I might not make it next year. Who knows about the year after that? You never know. It could grow really fast, but it might not. But the point is, I know that I have this infinite potential and that once I reach that breaking point, boom, it's going to be nuts. And the biggest problem with the world is that the people who are succeeding are not teaching you the beginning part of it, right? You see all these millionaires and billionaires out there. You see all these life coaches out there, and they're all teaching stuff. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you inside and let you watch the inflection point because I'm having it right now. I know I am. And so you're going to watch me go from a guy who's in decent shape to a guy who's just ridiculously ripped. You're going to watch me go from someone who's really happy to someone who's just a mental fortress and unstoppable, right? You're going to watch me go from someone who's afraid and addicted to video games and playing them alone to someone who shares his video games with friends. And you're going to watch me do it all live. So I'm excited to do that, guys, with you. And remember the Mon-stars metaphor. I think it's a really valuable teaching metaphor. And that's the cool thing is when you teach by logic, when you teach by logic, someone can always refute you. But when you teach by metaphor, it's essentially irrefutable, right? Like I dare you to come up with a way that metaphor isn't true, because it just is. It's the truth, right? Like when Jesus taught metaphors, and whether you're Christian or not, like when good teachers teach parables and metaphors and they just lay the smack down on you, you're just like, well, crap. Like I got to listen to them because that's just right. And so I encourage you to take that strength and go with it. But now here's what we're going to do. We're going to move straight into self-therapy. And again, I'm running 20 minutes late today. That's life. It happens. Especially on the first day. I had to create that background stuff. So when I'm doing self-therapy, here's what I do. I have my coffee. This is Four Sigmatic mushroom coffee. I'm almost done with it now, but so it's like half caffeine coffee that has this lion's mane mushroom that helps my brain go, which is cool. I may eventually even wean off this because I'm big on no substances. I'm done. No drugs, which I never really did. No drinking, which I used to do. Haven't drank a drink of alcohol in 2020. Technically, that might be a lie. The last drink of alcohol I had was at a New Year's Eve party, and I can't remember if it was after midnight. I don't think it was, so I think my last drink of alcohol was at 11:45 or so p.m. on the 31st of December 2019. So I haven't had a drink of alcohol in 2020. I have quit my full caffeinated coffee. I'm off Lexapro, which was my anti-anxiety med, which I'm not saying you should go off. That medicine helped me change my life. It's the reason I'm here right now. It's just it was finally time that I could go off it because I've been training with it on. And so I may eventually go off coffee as well, just to go off all mind-altering substances. But for now, just gently weaning off. But here's the self-therapy for today. I've been noticing pressure when I've been working on my Mental Health 101 program. Specifically, what I'm noticing is I'm feeling this pressure, this I've got to do more, got to achieve more. This kind of conflict in my head where half of my mind is saying, Woody, relax. You're 26. Life takes time. Building a stream takes time. Building an audience takes time. All this stuff takes time. You need to relax. And so I am kind of judging between that and then this other half of me that's like, Woody, you're not working near hard enough. Like, you're not practicing your three-pointers hard enough. The Mon-stars are going to beat you. Like, you need to go harder. You need to go faster. And so I'm kind of juggling this right now. And that's not something I've resolved yet. And so what I'm going to do is a little therapy on myself live. And you can't quite see this. Maybe I'll take this thing down a little more so you can watch me when I'm writing. I mean, I doubt you'll be able to see what I'm writing, but let's experiment here. Right, so I have my notepad. Now, I don't like my head being out of the thing. I'd rather be able to talk to you. So I got my notepad here. And then I'm just going to write in it. So I'm going to write self-therapy. What's today? And this is what I generally do. I highly recommend you get a team of trained professionals to help you with your therapy as well, which I also have. But I love to work on myself. So self-therapy, today's date is Tuesday, June 9th. So first thing you do is go on Amazon and buy a stack of Amazon Basics legal pads. They're very cheap. And so then you have these. And then I write self-therapy June 9th. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the thing I'm considering. I don't even like to think of things as problems. I just like considering pressure, feeling when working on MH101. And so you're going to watch me. I've already kind of semi-resolved this in my head, but you're going to watch me kind of bring it full circle. So now I've written down, I'm considering this pressure feeling when working on Mental Health 101. And the first thing you could learn is rather than trying to beat yourself up about something, you want to be noticing where there's pressure about something. And just to give a little background, one of the hardline things I take is that I am 100% convinced that there is no reason to ever be mentally upset or emotionally suffer. Now, you're going to experience some emotional pain as thing comes up and through you, and you're going to experience mental pain when your brain is stressed, right? But what I mean is, kind of in the Buddhist sense, there's no reason to ever suffer mentally or physically or emotionally, right? Pain is part of life, okay? But mental pain might be, ooh, I'm like working really hard to coordinate this live stream and my mind is kind of like, using energy and it's kind of tiring, right? That's tiring. But suffering is like, oh, like I hate that this isn't quite the way I want it, and what if nobody watches, and I just want more people to care about me, right? Or, emotional pain is like, maybe somebody says something really hurtful to you, like maybe somebody like looks at you and they're angry and they like scream at you. That's going to cause you emotional pain because you have mirror neurons in your brain which kind of take in what they're doing and then empathetically create it in yourself. So you're not going to avoid feeling that. But you are, either going to immediately worry about it and start storing it in your heart and getting frustrated, or you can just let it pass by and let it be a pain, right? It's the same thing, like emotional and mental pain are the same thing as if, I took a knife and like cut my hand or whatever. If I cut my hand, it's going to hurt. But if I spend any time wishing my hand wasn't cut, it's already cut. I can't do that. Or any time like squeezing it, being like, I hate this. Or any time being like, why me? Or any time like, focusing on it and stressing about, well, if this cut, what if I bleed? What if I, get hurt worse? What if my blood does something wrong? What if I get infected, right? Like worrying about all that and creating physical pain in addition, that's suffering, right? And so I come to each therapy session with this hardline belief that there is never a reason for me to have mental or emotional suffering or physical suffering, just pain, but never anything. And so with that hardline belief, what that means is that if I'm feeling mental suffering, right, I have to notice that and know that there's got to be a simple reason it's there that I can then just tweak and let go of, essentially, right? I can stop defending against it and just let go of it. So right now, what I'm noticing in myself is that I feel pressure when working on my coaching programs. This is something I've been noticing for months, and it's something that kind of surprised me because I thought, when I started working on my coaching stuff, it'd be like pie in the sky happy, and every day I would come to work so inspired, and I would never ever doubt myself, and I would always just work these like 14-hour days creating content. But I haven't exactly been doing that. And part of the reason is because there's this pressure, and so when I go to work on my stuff, I feel pressure. So I'm noticing that, right? This is what I want you to mirror, right? I'm not trying to teach you how to do this. I'm trying to let you watch me so you can mirror, okay? So the first thing is, right, I have this attitude of there's never a reason to be upset about anything, right? If you're here like watching a screen in 2020 or beyond, like loving life, then there's never a reason to be upset. There's literally zero reason, right? You could not possibly justify being upset or angry when there's so much beauty in the world. And just being alive is so much more beautiful than being dead. And so being alive is this beautiful gift in itself. So I always come from that perspective. And so now I'm saying, why is this pressure feeling here? And specifically, I just want to look at what happens. So here's the first thing that's coming to my mind, right? I just start writing down what's coming to my mind is not enough people are signed up, right? That's the first thought that's coming to my mind. And then here's another thought that's coming to my mind is not enjoying promoting, not enjoying promoting it, right? Like it's hard work promoting stuff. And so I'm not enjoying promoting the program. And I'm going to write down that emailing and rounding people up on social media feels like a hassle. And then I'm going to write this thought called like my talent is worth more than the audience I'm getting. And then I'm also going to write I don't want to expose my heart to people. So again, now I'm just taking some thoughts and I'm just kind of putting them on paper, right? I'm noticing all of these patterns that are creating pressure in my brain, creating something that obviously I know doesn't need to be there. It's not about whether it should or shouldn't be there. I'm 100% certain I don't need to have this pressure. So it's just my job to get rid of it. So now this is what my paper looks like. As you can see. So I've written those things. I've written, pressure feeling when working on Mental Health 101. Not enough people are signed up. Not enjoying promoting the program. Emailing and rounding up people on social media feels like a hassle. My talent is worth more than the audience I'm getting. I don't want to expose my heart to people, right? So this is cool, right? Because you can see that there's a reason I'm feeling pressure between these 5 things. You know, that's a lot of like stuff that would generally make me have, this is what Tony Robbins would call a neuroassociation. This is what would give me a negative neuroassociation to my mental health 101, because I got all these negative things popping around. So how do I deal with this, right? I am working slowly. You can take each thought and go against each thought. And this is how you train yourself, right? You go to each thought. And so at the most basic level, you do something that in therapy would be called cognitive behavioral therapy, where you would look at each of these thoughts and you would create a specific logical counter argument for why, what would I say? For why it's wrong, essentially. For why this thought is warped. So let me do an example of that real quick, okay? So let me give you an example of not enough people are signed up. Or let's just catastrophize that a little bit and call it what if nobody ever signs up, right? What if nobody ever signs up? And I have some sign-ups right now, but maybe like 10, right? Like not near as many as I'd want, right? I want like a bajillion because I'm ambitious, you know? So, hey, I want 1 million people, not 10. But let's say I have 10 people right now, and I'm like, what if only 10 people sign up, and what if only 1 person shows up? I think that's my greatest fear right now, is what if exactly 1 person shows up, and then I'm embarrassed to be teaching that 1 person because they want to leave because they can't stay there the whole time, and then they feel bad about leaving, and I feel bad about them leaving, and then we all feel bad, right? Do you see how this like human mentality can happen? That's, I think, my worst case scenario. So what if only 1 person shows up, and then they feel guilty about leaving, and I feel guilty about them leaving, whatever, okay? So I'd say that, and then I'd say, what is this, right? There are logical flaws in this thought. Number 1, right, we're going to call it future telling, right? We can't predict the future. And so this act of future telling is false, right? Your future telling instinct is completely false. If you read that Untethered soul book, Michael Singer, this future telling, it's false, guys. It's just false, okay? Second thing is it's catastrophizing, right? Like acting like if only 1 person shows up, then like why is that a catastrophe? Like why is that so bad? Let's say 1 person shows up and then they feel a little bad, but they have to leave after 20 minutes, and so they don't take the full training. So what? Like what negative thing even happens? I did my training, I learned, I grew, that person got a resource, more people might take it afterwards. You know, like why would I, like even, it's not a big deal. It's just, why would I catastrophize something that literally doesn't matter, okay? And then I'm also doing something that in cognitive behavioral therapy we would call mind reading, which is, how could I possibly know that even in this weird scenario where 1 person shows up and they feel guilty, how could I know they're going to feel guilty? Maybe they're going to be like, this was amazing, like this was the best thing ever and I've got to go, but I'm going to go share this with 17,000 people because I loved this, right? So you can't read people's minds, you can't do that. And so then I'd come up with I'd create a positive version of the story, a positive reframe, okay? So now my sheet looks like this, right? I've got my future telling, catastrophizing, and mind reading on there, and then I would go and create a positive reframe. So if you're doing traditional therapy, then that's how you'd start. And I'm really big on deliberate practice. So you need to be starting this way, right? You need to be starting like this. But I, at this point, am a lot farther in my progression than this. And so I'm going to tell you why this is something I also agree with Tony Robbins on, is when he started, he was very almost like controversially like taunting traditional therapists and saying that he could coach people and solve problems like phobias and stuff way faster than traditional therapy. And in the same vein, I would say that traditional therapy is 10 million times better than getting nothing, but I think you can go 10 million times farther than traditional therapy. And so let me show you a couple reasons why. I think if you stopped at this, you're still on track to be spending a life that's not totally happy and fulfilled, and I would still be on track to be unfulfilled. First reason is obvious, right? More of these thoughts are going to come up every day, okay? So even if I solve one, it's just going to come back tomorrow in a different form. You can never solve all your upsetting thoughts, right? You can't sit there and logically go through every single thought. It'd take way too long, okay? And so while the act of practicing is valuable, I can't just sit here and go through all these thoughts, right? I can't just do that. So that's one thing. And then to compare it to our metaphor, right? The second thing is that if we continue to just work these negative thoughts, what are we doing? We're still playing defense, aren't we? We're still playing defense, team, because what I'm doing here is I'm saying, okay, these negative things are getting in the way, right? And so what am I going to do? I'm going to think about each negative thing until I can solve it and create it into a positive thing. But that would be just like going up against the Mon-stars and playing defense, and you're just like, I'm going to defend until I can finally steal the ball and score, right? But here's the thing. Life is not like that game of basketball with one ball. It's more like our metaphor, where we can have as many balls as we want. We've got our own hoop. We can do our own thing. We're all hypnotized. We're literally all hypnotized into thinking that we have to play by society's rules, which are one basketball. To get the ball from the Mon-stars, you have to be able to guard against them. That's not actually true. And so I have to ask myself, what would be the equivalent of not fighting the Mon-stars, but instead just going and shooting my own ball, right? I have to ask myself that. And so now live, I have to ask myself and figure this crap out, because otherwise I'm going to feel pressure, right? And so the first thing I did that I thought about this earlier today is positive. I'm going to write positive / shoot my own ball perspective. So the first thing I realized is that what I am doing with my life is very similar to an advanced degree. And so the first thing I'm going to do, right, is I'm going to make sure that I understand what being a beginner is like. What do I mean by that? I mean, think about this. This is something I think about all the time. Another just mindset that I'm getting deeper and deeper into. And what time is it now? I'm going over. I'm going to run late into my workout time because it's already 10 o'clock. But that's fine, right? We're just doing our best guess. We're just running 20 minutes late today. I'm going to actually type. I'm going to give a notification of that. 1 second. Text. Create new. Did that work? Oops. I'm 20 minutes late today. Okay, so there you go. We're running 20 minutes late. No big deal. Workout will happen at 10:20. So here's the next thing I'm going to do is, the first thing I'm going to do is, instead of thinking about the negative, well, that was the first thing I did. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that it takes a lot of time to learn up front, right? To do something up front. And so I'm just going to run a quick calculation to baseline myself for what realistically it takes to learn how to shoot my 3-pointers so that I understand, okay? So I'm going to do a quick calculation and compare it to grad school, which is a very similar thing to what I'm doing, okay? When did I quit my job? I quit my job October 25th, 2019. That was my last day of working at my corporate job. So since then, it has been how long? About 8 months, right? Let's say November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. 7 months? Something like that, right? So it's been like 8 months. And October, November, December. Did I count wrong? January, February, March, April, May, June. Yeah. So it's been like 9 months, right? It's been 9 months since I quit my job, and I probably could have counted backwards. Anyway, it's not a math stream. But it's been 9 months, right? So 9 months, okay? And so I'm going to compare this. This is something I do because my wife's an attorney, and she has a law degree. And so I'm going to compare it to a law degree, right? If I were getting a law degree, if I quit my job to get a law degree so I could become a lawyer, right? Because again, going to school is like training yourself for the 3-pointers, you know? I would spend 3 years in school, and it would cost, let's just say a good law school is $30,000 a year, right? So let's say that it would cost me 3 years and $90,000 negative, right, to just study the law. And then let's say after that, I do a clerkship for 2 years, making about $50K a year. And then let's say after that, I work at a law firm and I make, I have some really cool law firm, so I make six figures, right? I don't know exactly what all law firms pay, but we'll just say six figures at law firm. So the first thing I'm noticing, right, is that if what I'm doing is a similar pattern, like I'm getting an advanced degree in personal improvement and entrepreneurship, if what I'm doing is a similar pattern to a law degree, right, then if you wanted to go get a law degree right now, you'd go for 3 years. It would cost you $30,000 a year, so that add up to $90,000. Then you'd go be a law clerk for 2 years, earning about $50,000 a year. And after 2 years of clerking, you'd really still be in debt because you have to live, but you would have only earned as much as your first 3 years of school. So we're talking 5-year investment, net $0, right? And you have to live during that time. So you're really net negative until you get your firm job and move on up, right? Same for getting, if you're getting a PhD, maybe you're getting paid a, $20,000 a year stipend. That's almost nothing, right? Barely enough to live on, maybe not enough to live on. So you might have to go into debt for that, right? If you're getting a medical degree, probably pretty similar, 4-year medical degree, probably costs a lot. So anyway, the first thing I want to do, right, is baseline my adult education on something that's realistic. So there's that, right? And so I've been doing this for 9 months, which would make me the equivalent of a first-year law student, right? First-year law student. And instead of losing money, I'm actually earning overall in my 2 businesses, right? We had a sale for Prince by Preetha that was a $5,625 sale, right? I did all the prints in 1 weekend, and it was a massive success, right? And now we're going to get taxed. There were expenses, and we pay like a processing fee for our merchant and all that, but ultimately thousands of dollars are actually coming in from my business instead of going out, okay? And so immediately, what you'll see is if we look at life from the shooting the three-pointer perspective, compared to any kind of regular growth ratio, I'm actually crushing it. And so what that does is instead of going, oh, Woody, you're worried about this one person signing up or whatever because your coaching company isn't earning yet. Your coaching company is still in its growth phase, right? Your coaching company is still in incubation phase, right? Instead of worrying about that, now I'm actually factually thinking, oh my God, I have high standards. The standard is I'm going to have to work really hard and I'm not going to earn. And it's like getting an advanced degree or an MBA or something. But instead, I'm earning while I'm doing it. And so every single person who comes to my trainings, every single person who comes into this is like bonus gravy and it's like all amazing and wonderful. Okay? And so immediately, I have now gotten to the thing that was causing me pressure, right? Remember, that was the thing I was feeling. And you're going to feel this, and it's always because you have these basically just dumb expectations, right? Remember the word pressure at the top there. But now what you can see is that, compared to getting an advanced law degree, right? Like my personal financials are an amazing thing. So I don't need to worry about the finances. And so now I'm like, well, that was one reason I was worried is because I felt pressure to earn. But obviously, if you're starting the three-pointer contest, even for me, it's super disorienting. It's incredibly disorienting because, again, I'm hearing people, like all these voices in the outside, real people are telling me, what are you doing? Like, you're not earning. Why'd you quit your job? Blah, 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 right? If I'd gone to law school, they wouldn't be saying that, but because I'm doing something new and innovative, they're saying that, right? Now, again, like all those people are, saying, like, what if it doesn't work? But I already know from my basketball metaphor, it doesn't matter whether it will or won't work. It matters that if I don't go for it, I'm 100% guaranteed certain sadness and insignificance, okay? So the finances worry is set, right? I don't need to worry about my finances, okay? And I've solved it not by going up against the negative, but by actually understanding how the world works. And actually, this is incredibly key. If you just listen to this right here, this is going to blow your mind. You never you never solve negativity by trying to throw positivity at it. What you do is instead of living in the world of negativity, you just gain an understanding of the real world and then simply take advantage of the natural laws to have an amazing life. And so while I call myself the happiest person on earth, it's not because I shout a bunch of positive things to my head. It's because I've looked at the world and I understand, wow, I have complete control over my brain, which means I can be as happy as I want at any time. I have complete control over my emotions, so I can be as happy as I want anytime. I have complete control over my physical body. So short of someone literally like physically harming me, right? Then short of that, I can do whatever I want with my body. So there's no reason not to be ripped, extraordinarily happy, and never anxious, right? There's just no reason. And so that's not positive thinking. That is facts about the world, right? And the reason everyone in the world is unhappy is because they're literally denying reality at all times. So remember that, right? That's a really important principle. But then beyond, we're going to put this off for tomorrow. We're going to address this tomorrow because we're running a little long here. But beyond the finances, the second part of this is the other thing I'm losing, right? The other thing I'm missing out on, the other reason I feel pressure is because I feel pressure to be significant to others. Okay, I feel pressure for others to watch my streams, to take my training, right? And so it's not just the money. It's not just the money of, hey, if 1,000 people came to my training, maybe 10 people would buy my program and then I'd have money, right? It's not that. It's the pressure of if 1,000 people came to my thing, I would finally feel like I was getting that audience I deserved and that these things were being talked about. And so there's a whole nother can of worms on why would I ever base my sense of significance off somebody else? It's completely irrational. I know that because I've been working on this for a while. And so I'm going to go and experiment with this and get better at this. And so we'll get into that tomorrow because I think today it was just about that financial anxiety. And there's some very deep things going on here. I want you to I'm going to give you a teaser for like an extremely deep training. This would not be Mental Health 101. This would be like Mental Health like 449. But if you want to know what's going on in mental health like 449 or whatever, like grad school mental health stuff, which is what I'm working on myself as I teach you guys the 101. What I'm working on myself as I develop the advanced curriculum is there are 4 levels of things. There is the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the consciousness, okay? AKA your focus, your actual consciousness, awareness of being. And consciousness is the highest, physical is the lowest. So when you look at people in society, right, the vast majority of people are just trying to solve the physical. And so mentally they have no control, so they're like constantly like frustrated in their mind. And emotionally they're like upset. And in terms of their consciousness, they're not even aware that they have an independent consciousness. But then a lot of people, like I would say almost like the biggest problem with the world, this is the thing I am transcending that I personally see as the biggest challenge for modern society, is that everyone is stuck in the mental, okay? What I mean is everyone is stuck trying to become more educated, is stuck trying to become smarter, is stuck trying to convince other people of things, is stuck trying to convince themselves of things. And so if you look at it, right, when I was doing that therapy about, thinking of my negative thoughts and like future telling and catastrophizing and mind reading and creating a positive reframe, right, that's all the mental. And so this is my problem with traditional therapy, is it stops at the mental, but the truth is the mental is also extraordinarily simple, right? It's just like those things are always going to be there. And so what I do personally is I say, well, if I ever have a negative thought, I know I'm already doing all those future telling, catastrophizing, whatever, and so I don't have to think about it. I just know I'm doing it, and I don't trust that thought. And then the next level, which almost nobody is at, really I would say almost nobody is here, which just astonishes me, because this is where life starts to get good, is the emotional, right? Meaning emotional conditioning. Guys, I want you to understand, and I will probably live stream this eventually, I cry on a daily basis. I intentionally raise my emotions to cry tears of movement and grace and joy, not sadness. I never cry when I'm sad. I shut down when I'm sad. I don't cry. But I cry tears of joy on a daily basis. And so I would say if you're not crying tears of joy on a daily basis, just like, what are you doing on this planet, right? You have less than 100 years probably to live and exist, and you should be crying you could be crying tears of joy every single day, right? You really could. There's no reason not to. In fact, imagine, right, that you're like this consciousness that's up there that doesn't have a human body. You're just in space, and God wakes you up, and God is like, you get to live down here for 1,000 years or 100 years, right? And you get to experience the grass and the animals and the trees and the, technology, and you can watch a live stream and you can do all of this, right? Imagine that for a second. That's so beautiful and so just incredible that it's astonishing. Of course you could be crying tears of joy. There's no reason not to be. And so it's things like that where other people, look at me, like when we're watching, my wife and I watch Grey's Anatomy at night right now during quarantine, And so we'll be watching Grey's Anatomy, and there'll be like this emotional moment, and she'll be like giggling or being like, oh, that's cute. And I will have literal tears streaming down my eyes. You know, when people die, when people have happy things happen, I will cry at this show, okay? And another thing I do, right, like an example of emotional, right? Here's an example with the racial equity situation in America and how much racial chaos there is, and how, I mean, obviously America is racist. Like, you can check out, where's the new Jim Crow, which is right there. Yeah, there it is. New Jim Crow, right? And Stand from the Beginning and books like that, right? But I am like, okay, I'm educated about racism, moving on to the emotional level. And so what I do to prime myself emotionally is what I actually do is I watch scenes from Remember the Titans daily, pretty much. And I watch the left side, strong side scene from Remember the Titans about 5 times in succession until I'm just crying, right? Because that's the first time that the white guy and the black guy like start to like coalesce and like be like a team. And it's this moving moment. And so for me, that would be an example of emotional exercise. And that's really, really powerful. Because when you're doing that emotional exercise, it's like, oh my gosh, like, you know, like you feel different. And so you might say, well, Woody, but I need to be educated. Well, for me, how am I going to solve racism? I'm going to become so emotionally like attached to this idea of racial equity, to the inspiration, to the positive of it, right? Rather than fighting the negative, I'm shooting my own 3-pointers against racism by creating this mentality of love of fighting for racial equity. And then, you know, one of my big dreams for life, to be transparent, is to find like I need a best friend. I'm still on the lookout for a best friend. And so I would just love to have a best friend who just happens to be like similar to me in every way, but he's black. And so we could be like that team, like those 2 guys in Remember the Titans, and we could be like equals who like go conquer the world, right? And like solve racial equity. So that's one of my dreams personally, right? And so I simulate that dream and attract it to me using the law of attraction by thinking of that and watching that left side, strong side moment with the 2 guys in Remember the Titans. So that's the emotional. But there's even more than that, which this is the thing that is almost impossible to explain, impossible to touch, and you have to really desire it to get here. But that is the area of consciousness or focus. And so, again, this is like mental health like 700. This is like PhD level mental health. But just to give you a teaser of what's possible. What I do now is I'm teaching myself not to focus on anything but shooting my 3-pointers. So again, back to the Mon-stars analogy at the beginning of this video, right? It's not enough to just do your own thing, because if you're constantly worried, right? If I'm shooting my 3-pointer, but I'm looking behind to see if the Mon-stars are scoring, that's going to make me not shoot 3-pointers as well, okay? But then I'm going to be shooting these 3-pointers, and I won't even be looking at the Mon-stars, and there's going to be a crowd around me, maybe even my family, my friends, right? Saying, Woody, you're not looking at the Mon-stars. Like, watch out, they're going to score. Watch out, hey, shouldn't you shoot this way? Shouldn't you do this? And all these people in the arena are going to be watching me and screaming at me, telling me to do something different. And what I have to understand is that if I ever choose to consider their feedback, I've already lost, right? Which is a crazy thing to say. But this is the game of consciousness, is if I focus on what they're saying, they're focused on the Mon-stars. The Mon-stars are focused on tricking me into losing. And so it's this trap where in the end, if I focus on anything but just shooting my 3-pointer, then I'm guaranteed to lose. And so what I'm doing in terms of focusing, and this is why I get kind of frustrated at traditional therapy, is because they just stop at this. They're like, well, every time you have a negative thought, write down whether it's future telling or something. That's still focusing on the negative. You can just understand that you have all these biases and just be like, well, if I have any negative thought, it's just due to a bunch of stupid cognitive biases I don't need to have. And then you can choose to focus on reality and shooting your 3-pointer. Remember? I'm not focused on some fake positive, right? I'm real about my scenario. But I bet you, if you do the research and you focus on what's real, you're going to realize, just like me, that holy crap, instead of getting a law degree, which costs $30,000 a year, to have a clerkship that I make $50K for 2 years, to still be in debt, to go work at a firm and make 6 figures, and maybe, you know, an average lawyer can start at $100,000 a year, and by the time they're a rich partner at age 60, maybe they make $1 million a year, right? And I'm sure there are some that make more than that. I'm sure there's some that make less, but let's just pretend that maybe they make $750,000 a year at a fancy law firm, or $1 million a year plus if they worked at a private law firm for 40 plus years. But I'm here doing something that starts at, oh my God, I'm actually earning money. I'm actually spending less to get educated. And it's very possible that in 10 years, I could be earning $10 million a year. That's not a joke, right? Like, Jeff Bezos is earning like $10 million an hour or something, right? Like something ridiculous. I don't know what it is, but he's earning like millions of dollars by the hour. And so that's what entrepreneurship, the advantage of it. And so chances are, if you're really listening to your inner voice and doing something that really matters to you and you're really passionate about it, the chances are that when you look at the hard facts of reality and focus on your 3-pointers, you're going to realize, oh my gosh, I can do so much more than I ever thought possible, but it's an exponential curve, right? Just like it might take you a year to catch up to the Mon-stars or 4 years to catch up to them because you're just learning 3-pointers. Once you get better, it's just exponential, right? It's just exponential, just boom, 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 and then you're just destroying them, right? Whereas someone who's playing defense never gets that exponential curve. So guys, that's the lesson for today. If I lost you there with the consciousness stuff, it's that's okay, but I'm just being transparent with my process. And so again, if you want the very simple thing, the super simple stuff, the super easy stuff, just go to Mental Health 101, okay? Just go to Mental Health 101, right? I am going to do my best to not be anxious about whether you come or not. I'm doing self-therapy so that I don't care if you come or not, right? I'm still doing a great job for myself. My self-worth is not based on you. But hey, I think it would be super fun to have you there, right? And remember, here's my streaming schedule. So if you're interested in any of these things, whether it's teaching Parable daily at 9:15, self-therapy at 9:20, we ran 20 minutes late today, but that's okay. Daily workout at 10. I'm about to transition to that. I'm going to turn off the stream, kind of like take care of some stuff, get my workout clothes, and I'm going to work out in about 15 minutes. Podcast recording live at 2 p.m., playing video games from 4 to 6 on twitch.tv/WoodyReaney. And then if I can get it to work today, we'll see. I haven't done it yet, so we'll see if that works today. And then everything from my live stuff is going to upload and be published, poof, at 8 p.m. every day. So there you go, guys. I will see you in just a few minutes if you want to work out with me or watch me work out or learn what I'm doing with my workout. But have a wonderful day, if not, and I'll see you later.